Okay, so when you look at the news from the Middle East, it's just constant, isn't it? The conflict, the suffering, the fear.
Yes.
It's overwhelming.
It really is. The headlines dominate.
But what if, amidst all that noise, we're actually missing a key part of the picture? What if we're, maybe focused on the wrong war? There's this other conversation happening quietly.
That's exactly right. Because while all eyes are on the immediate, very real crises, there's this other threat, climate change, that's just multiplying.
Multiplying silently.
Yeah, scientists call it a magnifier of instability and suffering. And in a place like the Middle East, already so fragile and torn, it's pouring fuel on the fire.
Right.
But, and this is the interesting part from the sources we looked at, there might be this hidden potential there, an untapped power to heal, as they put it.
Untapped power to heal. Okay, now that sounds different. So that's what we're diving into today, this idea of peace coming from environmental cooperation, shared prosperity.
Precisely. We're going to explore this vision, look some history, some really ambitious, concrete ideas for the region.
It's definitely not the angle you hear every day. So let's unpack it. You mentioned climate change magnifying instability. How exactly does that work on the ground there, beyond the headlines?
Well, first off, the Middle East is confirmed as a climate hike spot. That's not, speculation.
Okay.
The projections are pretty stark. By the end of the century, we're talking temperatures possibly rising 5 to 8 degrees Celsius.
5 to 8 degrees, that's huge.
It's massive.
Yeah.
And rainfall potentially decreasing by 40%.
Wow.
And these aren't just numbers, right? They worsen existing problems. Think about water, it's already unequally shared. This makes it worse.
The power dynamics around water.
Exactly. Power asymmetry and pollution. It just ignores borders, checkpoints, everything. Ecosystems are, well, they're basically hostages to the political deadlock.
So it just compounds every existing tension.
It really does. It affects farming, health, just basic survival.
It paints a pretty bleak picture, honestly. So amidst all that, where does this idea of hope, this untapped power, even come from?
Well, the sources point to history. Think about Europe after World War II.
So,
Specifically Germany and France. Bitter enemies, right? Generations of conflict.
absolutely.
But they chose a different path. They signed that coal and steel agreement in the early 50s.
Right, the European coal and steel community.
Yes. And that essentially converted battlefields into the European Union. The core idea being even sworn enemies can find common ground for mutual benefit. And that can lead to lasting peace.
Okay, I see the parallel, but like you said, the Middle East doesn't have coal and steel in the same way. So what are its resources for peace, according to this vision?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. The sources propose the sun, the sea, and crucially transformative ideas.
Sun, sea, and ideas.
To make this concrete, they introduced Nada Majdalani. She's the Palestinian director of an organization called EcoPeace Middle East. Her personal story is really powerful here. She was born in the diaspora, didn't feel truly home, she says, until after the Oslo Agreement in '94.
Right.
And as a kid, she joined these environmental peace-building groups. And she talks about meeting, quote, the first Israeli who is not a soldier, a teenager like myself who's fond of wildflowers and watching birds.
Wow. That image. 2 teenagers connecting over nature despite everything. That's quite something.
It really cuts through the politics, doesn't it?
It does. So is that personal connection, that shared environment, kind of the driving force behind EcoPeace? Tell us more about this organization. What makes it unique?
Well, EcoPeace has been around for 30 years now, so they have deep roots. And it's co-led on equal footing by 3 directors, Gideon Bromberg from Israel, Jenna Abu Talibanian from Jordan, and Nada Majdalani from Palestine.
Equal footing, that seems important.
Very. And their real strength, they say, is their team. 60 environmental peace-building professionals and activists, Palestinians, Israelis, Jordanians, all working together across borders. That's, well, it's pretty neat for the region.
60 people from all 3 sides.
Exactly. Their whole philosophy is built on this idea that they live on such a tiny piece of land. It's so interconnected, so vulnerable, that cooperation isn't just nice, it's essential. Shared responsibility.
That makes sense. So how do they, put that belief into practice? What do they actually do?
They do a lot, actually. They work to turn water and energy challenges into opportunities for mutual benefit.
Okay.
For one, they train thousands of young professionals every year, Palestinian, Israeli, Jordanian, in things like water diplomacy, climate realities, negotiation skills, always with that cross-border focus.
Building capacity, skills.
Right. And they provide practical green solutions to schools, businesses, farmers. They're also directly involved in addressing the humanitarian crisis in Gaza.
So it's practical on the groundwork, too.
Definitely. And their whole mindset is we refuse the status quo. They're determined to dream forward. They have this vision for the day after the war.
Dreaming forward. I like that. So let's talk about that bigger vision. You mentioned a peace triangle. What is that exactly?
Okay, so the peace triangle involves Palestine, Israel, and Jordan. But the vision sees it fitting into something even bigger. The India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor, or IMS.
Ah, IMS, right. That was announced at the G20 in India, wasn't it? The big infrastructure plan.
That's the one. Launched in 2023, aiming to boost development through regional integration. Railways, shipping lanes connecting the Gulf, Middle East, Europe.
Okay, so the peace triangle fits within that larger framework. What are the core parts of this triangle, the specific projects?
Right, this is where it gets really ambitious. They've outlined 3 core sectors with specific, researched, though currently imagined, catalytic projects.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, energy. Imagine huge amounts of solar power generated in Jordan, Saudi Arabia, Egypt.
Makes sense. Lots of sun there.
Exactly. Then, exporting that energy to Eastern and Southern Europe, potentially meeting 30% of their needs. It links up with European initiatives like Repower Europe. But the key addition, the really novel part, is proposing a green line that specifically includes Gaza as a node for exporting these renewables to Europe too.
Gaza exporting renewable energy to Europe. That's unexpected. Okay, what's next?
Second, water. The vision includes a massive desalination plant built in Gaza.
For Gaza's water needs, obviously crucial.
Yes, but not just for Gaza. Also providing water for the West Bank, and potentially even selling surplus water to Jordan, transferring it through Israel's national water carrier system.
Wow, okay. Selling water from Gaza to Jordan via Israel, that implies a whole new level of cooperation.
It really does. Interdependence is the key word.
And the third sector?
Third is sustainable transport for trade. It builds on that planned IMA railway from the Gulf through Jordan to the port of Haifa in Israel.
Okay.
The EcoPeace vision proposes extending that railway from Jordan into the West Bank and then critically onto the port of Gaza.
So both Haifa and Gaza become major gateways to Europe.
Exactly. Both ports serving as the Middle East's gateway to Europe for trade. Imagine the economic potential.
It's a genuinely huge vision. Energy, water, transport, all interconnected, all requiring cross-border cooperation. If, and it's big if, obviously, but if these projects happen, what's a projected impact beyond just the economics?
Well, the proponents argue the impact would be transformative. You'd achieve genuine interdependence based on shared resources, like that European coal and steel example.
Right.
This, they believe, wouldn't just bring prosperity. It would create a geopolitical security agenda, one that could actually make a Palestinian state alongside Israel, the two-state solution, an achievable reality.
So security through shared economic necessity.
That's the idea. And it would also, propel the reconstruction of Gaza in a completely different way, focusing on regional integration, long-term prosperity for everyone, not just rebuilding the status quo.
It sounds incredible, but let's be realistic, especially now. How are these ideas received? People pushing this kind of vision, it must be incredibly difficult.
Oh, absolutely. It takes immense courage.
Yeah.
The sources are very clear about the challenge.
What kind of challenges?
Well, first, dismissal. These ideas are often brushed off as dreams, impossible, unrealistic. You rarely see them seriously discussed in mainstream media.
I can imagine.
But it goes beyond dismissal. Members of EcoPeace, people like Nada, Gideon, Jana, they face accusations of treason. They get condemned for normalizing with the enemy. Their reputations are attacked.
Treason for advocating environmental cooperation.
Sadly, yes. There's a huge personal cost. As one source put it, each one of us has a story of grief and loss. And remember, Nada herself lives in the West Bank, under military occupation. It's not abstract for them.
That's sobering. Facing that kind of hostility, the personal risk, the grief. What keeps them going? What drives them to keep advocating for this, especially now?
Nada's motivation, as she expresses it, is powerful. It's for my beautiful daughters and for the children of our region, but also bigger than that, for humanity, sanity, freedom, and justice.
For the next generation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she makes a direct appeal. Really, a direct invitation to all of us listening. She asks us to share our vision, to talk about the peace triangle, to tell our story.
Tell the story that there are people working together.
Yes, that there are people in the Middle East who do coexist, who refuse the cycle of destruction and killing. Her core message is just crystal clear. We deserve peace. We deserve prosperity.
And that it connects to us, too.
Absolutely. It matters to you as it mattered to us. We have a shared future. Our future is entangled and our survival is shared. That sense of interconnectedness again.
So wrapping this up, what this deep dive really highlights is maybe a different way to think about peace building. Not just politics and treaties, but actually building things together.
Yeah, tangible things. Infrastructure for shared resources like water and energy. It flips the script, doesn't it? Focusing on shared challenges like climate change and shared resources like sun and sea to create interdependence instead of division.
Building peace from the ground up, literally.
You could say that. And it leaves you with a thought, doesn't it? Maybe the solutions to some of these really deep, seemingly intractable conflicts aren't just in negotiations around a table, but maybe in these bold, interconnected projects that almost force cooperation because everyone needs them. Shared necessity, mutual benefit. What if, the blueprints for peace are actually there in these kinds of plans, just waiting for us to have the courage to imagine them into reality?
It definitely makes you think differently. It challenges you to consider these long-term systems-level approaches and maybe question our own assumptions about what's actually possible, even in the toughest situations. Food for thought, for sure.